Welcome back, everybody, to Late Night Snacks. We are here with you guys again on this fabulous day to discuss Stephen King's The Stand 2020, this 2020 series, which streams on CBS All Access on Thursdays. It's a 9-episode, 10-hour series based on the novel mostly ish. We haven't gotten that far yet. We know we found discrepancies, but we haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah.
But there was also a 1994 miniseries. There's the novel, and then there was the 1994 miniseries, and now they have turned this into a little bit longer version of that for a 9-episode series. So I am here to tell you guys that also, if you want more stand coverage, be sure to click the links down below this video, where you will find links to a playlist for character reviews for the main characters in The Stand as of mostly the point of their introduction. We will tell you about their character, what they're up to, and we'll tell you about their backstory and how they got to be where they're at. So we'll give you information from the novel, the graphic novel, the 94 miniseries, and the 2020 series, and we're going to kind of mesh them together to tell you a lot about these characters. So again, click the links down below. I am one of your hosts, Irish Melly, along with the beautiful DeWanda. We are here to discuss with you guys The Stand. If you guys want more stand coverage, please hit the likes button, the thumbs up button. We really appreciate it because unfortunately YouTube takes us way too seriously, but it really helps our algorithm and we love you for it. Kisses for that. If you haven't subscribed, are you crazy? There's usually 4 of us. So you like this, just these 2, because who wouldn't like us?
Yeah.
But there's 2 more. 2 more people if you haven't met them yet. So subscribe and hit the bell. Right down here? Nope, right down here. Hit the bell so that you guys are notified every single time that we upload, because we upload multiple times a week. With that being said, we will be discussing season 1, episode 3, titled Blank Page. And it's only season 1 because that's how they have it billed as, because that's how they're doing everything now. But I'm sure they're leaving it open for the possibility of expanding the universe or extending it later if the right dollar amount is there. You never know. Yep. So let's jump right in. DeWanda, take it away.
All right. So they jump right in. They don't waste any time.
Oh. I would say we're on episode 3 at this point, so I think we've kind of seen the worst of it.
Yeah.
When everybody, like in episode 1, that was the graphic part of it, I think. So I think that's why they're just like, let's just go for it.
Mm-hmm. So we start off with a group of girls. They're sitting on the floor, and they're getting ready to play a game called Planchette, which is
an earlier version of
the Ouija board.
Yes.
The only difference is that with Planchette, it's like you're writing with like a pencil.
Well, and that's why if you use a Ouija board, the piece that is in the center of the Ouija board that you move is called a planchette. And it comes from that earlier version of it, which was just titled Planchette. And that actually, like DeWanda was just saying, you could put a pen or a pencil. Generally, it was a pencil because you would use like the little golf size golfing pencils. And you would put those in there, the smaller pencils. And then, you would move it, or you would talk to the spirits and see if it moved. But it would write stuff, like you said, instead of going to certain letters and things, it would write stuff out.
Right. And the more people that you have dealing with this, the more energy you put out. Then that will actually attract.
Which, let me tell you, I like that they added that in there because it's very true. If you believe in the mystical, the occult, the other world, paganism, Wiccanism, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, black magic, white magic, if you believe in these things, there's a balance, and it's all about energies. and what you put out is what comes back threefold. And yeah, so they that really happens. So be careful. You can manifest things just by thinking it, people, with the right energy.
And be careful what you're thinking, because you will manifest those things. So,
And who knows, you might meet Mr. Flag himself.
yes. So these girls are in their room, and they're all sitting on the floor. They're getting ready to play this game. And outside the room, there is, she's not necessarily a guard. She's just kind of,
Um,
what would you call
she's
her?
more, I would say she was more like just a worker, because at first I thought she was just like cleaning staff.
Yeah.
But then she seemed more like a nurse's aide type of thing, like maybe like a caregiver. Let's say that, a caregiver type of thing.
But she's sitting there. She's listening to music with her headphones, so she's not hearing anything. She's just like kind of rocking out.
Yeah, she just jamming.
And they basically open the door for the spirits to come in.
Well, they tell the
And,
new girl to come play.
because
So
the
the new
more
girl comes to play. She didn't want to, but then they tell her to come play.
yeah, because the more people they have.
Right. And the one girl tells her, new girl, because it starts moving. She says, new girl, if you're doing this, she says, you're going to get it.
Yeah, she did. And basically the planchette, first the planchette spells out Nadine's name. So they think that Nadine
She's
is the one.
doing it.
So they got upset with her on that one. But then they couldn't remove their fingers from the planchette itself.
Yeah. That was
And
scary to watch. I can imagine, if that really happened to you, it would be terrifying.
it went crazy, and basically it etched into the wooden floor underneath them. And what it said was,
I
uh,
wanted to ask you, did you pause it to get all of it? Because I could
I
read the big stuff and I didn't pause it to read the small stuff.
I got most of it. I got the big stuff. I was not able to read
That's
this.
what I did too.
I
Well,
tried.
you know what? I'll see if I can pull it up while you're finishing
Yeah,
talking about her.
I was not able to pull up. I was not able to read the smaller stuff, but the bigger stuff, basically the planchette spells out, um, Nadine will be my queen. And she's sitting on the floor looking at this. Sorry, my nose is like really itchy. Um, she's sitting on the floor looking at this, completely bewildered. But this
Yeah.
freaks out the rest
She
of the
looked
girls.
scared, but she looked aroused. But I don't want to say aroused because she was only about 12, 13. But
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like she was like very excited about it, but very scared at the same time.
right. So after this, the all of the girls go running out of the room, and then the woman that's sitting in the chair is just kind of looking at them bewildered. So that is our first scene of the episode. And then in the next scene we go to, Larry and Stu are walking down the middle of the road. um, Apparently they had just gone hunting, and
The
they
yellow
did
sports car shows up and almost runs them over
they
and
didn't
kind of
get anything.
crashes
And
softly.
the there's a yellow sports car that comes up behind them, so they move out of the way. And as Larry goes in, he turns off the car, and the keychain has a keychain on it that says Las Vegas on it. So this guy has come all the way from Las Vegas to deliver a message to Mother Abagail, um, which freaks out both of them, because they look at him and he's a mess. He's completely a mess. And it turns out that he's bleeding from the wrists, and Stu notices that um, he has been basically he's been nailed to a cross, because he was nailed to a cross in between, um, the bones in his wrist, which is like, and he's still bleeding, and he's laying on the ground saying, I have come here to deliver a message. And the last thing he says is that he is coming, and then he passes out. And then the next scene we have, we come back to Nadine, and she wakes up from this dream that she's had, and she is very, out of breath, and she's freaked out, and she's getting dressed for the day, trying to put all of that behind her. And she goes into Joe's room to wake him up for the day, only to find
Joe's hiding like he normally does.
only to find that Joe is hiding under the bed, holding the guitar, which he never lets go of that guitar. And she's trying to wake him up for the first day of school, because she's trying to help the kids have some form of normalcy. So she ends up leaving him under the bed
For the time being.
Just
for a minute, but they end up, the next scene is them at the school, so he obviously got out from under the bed.
And then
anyway,
we end up going to, I call this a flashback, but this one is not actually stated as a flashback, because the next scene we see Joe basically attacking Larry with a knife. And this is the first meeting of Nadine and Larry and Joe. And that's where Nadine basically says, well, we want to come with you. And we find out a little bit more backstory about where she found Joe, and that he's, is not speaking. He was basically like feral and scared, but she is able to get the knife out of his hand, and they end up traveling with Larry, even though Larry says, well, I'm pretty much better off being alone, because I came out of New York, and the woman that I was traveling with actually killed herself. So I feel better kind of traveling alone, but they do end up traveling together, because it's better to travel with more people for protection's sake. And then the next scene after that is where we have Nadine and Joe at the school, where Nadine is looking at the classroom, and Joe sees the blood stains on the floor and kind of gets freaked out a little bit by that. So I can't remember the name of the guy that was talking to her.
Oh, I don't remember either, but I know he got super excited because he thought he was going to, get his shot. He's like, that's the hottest woman I've ever seen. The hottest woman on the planet.
Yeah. It's like, and then you have Harold just basically saying to him, it's like, and you still don't have a shot with this woman. It's
right.
You think you have a shot with this woman, but you don't. And let's see, where am I at? Okay. Yeah. So we end up going back to Larry and Nadine, and Larry says he was traveling with a woman, and she killed herself. As I flip my, that he's better off traveling alone. Larry says he's following Harold, and the three start traveling together. See, Harold's been leaving notes along the way for people to follow, so that they end up going in the right direction, because they're all going towards Boulder, Colorado. And so that, this is kind of like a flashback in a way.
Because at first Harold and Franny are off to Atlanta for the CDC.
So the next scene after that, we have Franny in the hospital having an ultrasound, and this is the first time she actually gets to physically see the baby. She hasn't seen an ultrasound of the baby yet until this, which she kind of freaks out a little bit because she's like, oh my God, is it healthy? And
is it okay? Is it normal? And
is it
as far as I can see,
is it safe if one of the parents is immune and the other one isn't? Is that enough?
Code word.
Yeah. Is that enough? And let's see.
So they bring in the guy with the wounds.
At the same time, they bring in the guy with the wounds. The guy from the yellow sports
and he basically tells them that he's got a message, blah blah blah, that he was sent there. So they're like, then they're deciding on whether they're gonna tell Mother Abagail about this or not. And they're talking with Nick, who is a right-hand man, and she shows up anyway, and she says, he speaks for me, he's my right-hand man. And then they go talk to this dude, and that's where the interesting stuff happens.
Yes.
Mother Abigail's talking with him at the bedside.
Because he's laying there, he's basically unconscious until Mother Abagail touches his hand, and then he wakes up. Because you think that he's completely unconscious, and the second that she touches him, he wakes up, and is the only purpose that he's there is to deliver a message. And basically he ends up, in a way, it's kind of like a possession, because his eyes completely change. And then you start to hear Flag's voice.
Yeah.
Coming through him. So that's why I basically...
Or at least a demonic voice.
Yeah. That's why I kind of call it a possession in a way.
Yeah.
But during all of this, we start to get flashbacks of
Nick.
So now we get more of a backstory on Nick, because he walks into a bar, and Nick is from Shoho, Arkansas. Nick walks into a bar, but he bumps into this guy and basically spills his beer. And this sets the guy off, and they end up beating the living hell out of Nick. And
that's putting it lightly.
Yeah. And so they end up beating the living hell out of Nick and taking his week's worth of pay that he had just gotten. And then he ends up waking up in the hospital because they basically gouged his eye out, and he just looks like he's been rode hard. Let's just put it that way.
If you want to put the screen share in real quick.
Okay, we will do that. And I'm going to make it full screen. There we go. Are we playing this back?
I was just going to show kind of what happens at the bar.
Yeah.
But there's Nick. He bumps into the guy. And the guy basically goes to town on him.
Yeah.
See him flying. Like, look at that pause right there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah. And then he has a vision of Flag.
He has a vision of Flag. And Flag is basically trying to recruit him to be his right-hand man, which that is pretty much Flag's MO, because he's trying to recruit all these people to do all of Flag's dirty work for him.
Right.
So,
And he tells him, I can fix you. I can give you your voice back. I can give you your hearing back. And then he says, I can give you your eye back. And he's like, what's wrong with my eye? He's like, oh, you'll
yeah.
find out.
Well, you're about to find out.
Right. And that's when he wakes up in the hospital with his eye all busted because the dude busted him in the eye with the ring.
He basically ended up getting his eye completely gouged out.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that happened, but okay. Let's see. Then we have a scene of when they brought the guy from the sports car in. Nick immediately says that guy came from Las Vegas, and Stu was like, well, how do you know that? And he's like, well, did Mother Abagail tell you that he was coming? Because apparently Mother Abagail knew this guy was coming the whole time.
Mother Abigail's amazing. That's why.
Yes.
Most amazing 103-year-old woman, right?
She's 108.
108. Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of my neighbor. I have a neighbor that's 103. She's awesome.
Right. When Nick has the vision of Flag, that's where we get a little bit of backstory about and they changed this a little bit because his mother didn't come from El Salvador, obviously, but we get a little bit of backstory on the fact that she smuggled him in the trunk of a car so that he could have a better life, only to find out that he's unable to speak or anything like that. But he basically says, yes, but I can fix you. I can make everything better. The only thing you have to do is do everything that I say without question. And obviously Nick turns him down flat. It's like, basically Nick flips him off in the actual scene.
And he does actually, flip him off in the scene.
He does actually flip him off. But we also get to, so he has a vision of Flag, but he also has a vision of Mother Abagail. Because Mother Abagail says that God has a plan for you, and God wants you to be my voice for all of this. Because Nick doesn't believe in God, and he's like, why am I here? And all of those things. So she basically says, well, God, you may not believe in God, but God believes in you, and he has a plan for you. And his plan is for you to be my voice. So that's what he ends up being, is Mother Abigail's voice. So he ends up being the right-hand man of Mother Abagail. Let's see. And then we finally get to meet Tom Cullen. And, well, I have issues. I have some issues on this because this is when
we're back at the hospital and it shows the humanitarian in him, though.
In Nick, yes. Because he still takes care of the people that beat the living crap out of him.
Well, yeah, the guy that took his eye.
Yeah. And then Nick just leaves the hospital, he leaves the room, let's just say. And then the next scene we have with him is that he's asleep in a chair, and then we meet Tom Cullen, because Mother Abagail basically told Tom where to find him. And this scene is, how do I describe it? It started out really good, but then it just kind of went over the top a little bit for my taste.
You kind of jumped, so there it is. So I was trying to skip past it because you kind of glazed over it because it's the in between with Glenn.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to Glenn, but because we also get the meeting with Stu and Glenn, And Glenn is being played by Greg Kinnear,
Love
which
him.
love him so much. He brings a lot of comic relief, which is nice.
Yeah. Especially right now with such a heavy topic.
Especially right now. So yes, we do meet Tom Cullen, and I have issue with this part because the actor kind of lays everything on a little thick for my tastes, because he's constantly repeating himself. I don't know whether he was trying to get his point across, and I know that there's a lot of people that have issue with the person that is actually taking over this role, and I understand how they feel, because personally I would have wanted someone with a disability to do this role. I think they could have done it more justice and to make it more understandable. This one was just kind of over the top, and I'm hoping that it's going to be fixed down the road, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like this is the character that this guy decided to create for this. This is the character created for this job, for this character.
Right.
And it's just not right for this job. He's not right for the job, in my opinion. It just, to me, I agree with you. It felt overplayed. It felt like it almost felt like he was mocking it. I mean, in a way, it made me feel like he was mocking someone with a disability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying he was. I don't think he was at all. But it really felt that way. It came across that way. And I think there's a fine line that you really have to walk on and be careful with, that they did do in the 94 miniseries that worked.
Mm-hmm. But not so much here. So hopefully they can backpedal and fix it. So I'm gonna try and give him the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
But in this episode, we also finally get to meet Glenn Bateman, which is nice. And Glenn Bateman is played by Greg Kinnear. There he is.
I didn't recognize him at first when I saw him come out in this. Like I said, under all that facial hair, I was like, that face looks familiar. Who is that? I hear that voice. I know that voice. And then it hit me, and I was like, oh, I love it.
Yeah. And we get backstory on Glenn a little bit, and we get, he's in his house, and he paints for a hobby, but we get to meet Glenn Bateman, and we get to meet Kojak, the dog, which that dog is just beautiful.
And the dog somehow has immunity, that you bring up a good point, because they brought that up while him and Stu were having the conversation, that when everything went to hell and everything first started, when there still was news or reports, he had heard that animals, especially dogs and cats, were getting hit with it just as hard as humans.
Yeah.
And that's when Stu told him about the cattle and everything else, horses. And he said, but not the damn deer. There's deer everywhere.
Yeah. There's deer everywhere.
There's food to eat, at least. There's food.
Yeah.
Stu tries caviar for the first time.
Yeah, he does.
But then he finds the paintings.
Yes. He finds the paintings there's a painting that Glenn has done of Mother Abagail. And there's also a painting of Franny, and she's pregnant. So these are visions that that Glenn has had, and they're fairly recent, because the picture of Franny, he actually painted that 3 days before he met Stu.
Yeah, because Stu told him, he said, I didn't know she was pregnant.
Right. Let's see. Yeah, and that's the
message. We already said that.
Yeah, that's the guy that brings the message. to Mother Abagail.
But then we see Nadine as an adult pull out the planchette game.
Yeah.
And you can't hardly read what's down here.
No,
I tried to zoom in and read it. You can't really make it out.
No, all you can read is the really big
but it
part
says Nadine will be my queen.
Nadine will be my queen. That's really the only one that's really the only part that you get to see. So she's been basically chosen by flag at the age of 12.
Yeah.
And that's how long she's had that stone around her neck.
That's, yeah, we got the origin of her stone that she's always taking out.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that she only feels him in certain areas. She doesn't like being in Boulder right now because she can't feel him. And all she wants is to be with him. But it's not time for that yet. Let's see.
He tells her to bring the boy, and that's when she wakes up out of her trance.
No, she tells him to he tells her to tend to the boy. It's like because she needs to take care of him. Tend to the boy.
And then we see that she has Harold's name written on the piece of paper.
Yeah, Harold Laudner. Because that is the man that he wants Nadine to basically kill Mother Abagail and the 5 puppets that are basically running the show right now.
Right. And that's it.
Yeah. That's pretty much the end of it. The last scene we have is of Harold and I cannot remember.
The other guy, we can't remember his name.
But
they're dumping the fresh body of the guy who showed up in the yellow sports car.
Yeah.
And they have a conversation talking about how it's weird to dump a fresh body because they're on like the cleanup crew that cleans up all the bodies out of areas when they need to clean up an area. And they're used to bodies that have been there for months, you know, so they're heavier, they smell, they're bloated. And they were talking about that. And he said, it's weird, you know, to be a fresh one. And he's like, well, there'll probably be more soon. I mean, you think about it, people are going to die regardless.
Right. People are going to die.
Yeah, that wraps it up in a nutshell, folks.
That's the nutshell. And so now, do we have, what would you give this episode from a 1 to a 10?
I liked the stuff with Nick. I didn't like the Tom stuff, but I liked the Nick's backstory and stuff. I didn't like that, you know, he was in the hospital and not the sheriff's station, but I did like how they did it. It's just because I know the story, but it was still very well done. I liked Nick's whole backstory and the way they did it. But overall, I would say I'll give it a 7.5, 8 out of a 10 because I was satisfied, but I wasn't overly satisfied.
Yeah. Let's see, because I actually, even though last week I was not available for the stream last week, because I watched it later. However, I did last week's stream. I gave that one a 9. However,
and that's pretty much what we all did too. 9.5. So I mean, we were all right about there. We were happy with the episode. So, but what about?
Yes, there were parts of the episode that I really liked, which are the parts with Glenn Bateman. I really enjoyed those.
Yeah.
The parts with Mother Abagail.
Yeah.
Because Whoopi is killing it.
Code word.
So I'm giving it a 7.
Okay. Sounds about right. So you guys tell us in the comments below, what would you give this episode? Episode 3 titled Blank Page. What would you give this episode? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, in the description below, you can just easily click the link to go straight to a character review playlist where we have separate streams that we did, shorter streams about each character and their breakdown and backstory for you guys. So check those out. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. We love you. We love you for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to someone else. Bye.
And we will catch you guys in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.